That's a lot of
Thank you, Michelle, for having us and for hosting this every month. I think it's a great thing for, well, it's just people to come and check out the store and have a social time, and maybe get to discuss something about Corsage, have some fun.
All right, who's have us?
I'm Bill McMullen.
Doesn't intimidate.
And this is, the Bill. The other. Warren McMullen Dressage. We're based here for 6 months in the winter and in New England for the summer. And we're both judges and trainers, as probably most of you know. I'm a USEFS judge, and Bill is an FEI 4-star, or level 3 judge, as they call it now. The designation. And we actually leave tomorrow to judge at WEC and Ocala. And then I'll go Thursday to judge he's judging the CDI, and I'll judge the National this weekend at Ocala. So we're excited about that.
We didn't come up with any formal topic, or as we usually do, bring a TV and videos and all of that after 12 years plus, I think. It was really difficult to come up with more stuff. So we thought it would be just as interesting and maybe even better if we just opened it up for question and answers. We can talk about training topics, we can talk about judging stuff, whatever you want to discuss, but we decided to do that instead of stress about a formal presentation, which we've done every year in the past.
One thing, we also were just at the convention in Houston for USDF. Did anybody, I know certain people in the back of the room were there. Anybody else, was anybody else there?
Charlotte didn't go.
No, why not?
Yeah, she said it was the first time. She hasn't been in a long time.
In many years.
Anyway, but we enjoyed being at a convention, and lots of good education, judges' education there. And I thought we could start talking about that, and if that opens up some questions, please feel free. But one of the things, we had two extensive meetings on the Wednesday that we attended, and George attended also. Some of you probably know about this Black Horse system. Is the scoring system that we are utilizing now at a lot of shows, and especially at the CDIs here in Florida. Bill, maybe you'd use it even more. We use it some in the Nationals, but Bill's used it extensively in the CDIs, and now we're going to talk a little bit about how it works in the Judges Education Department. It's been very, very helpful.
Well, we have it now as part of our education system and bringing other judges up the ranks, and I don't know if I can really tell you all the ins and outs about it, but whereas in the past we have a lot of paperwork to go through and make decisions on differences in scores, in the push of a button we can have up on the screen in front of everybody, once everybody's finished judging a test or a certain movement, it gives us a grid and shows us all of the differences, and we can target things right in the moment and not have to flip pages to see about this one and that one. So it really is a much more sophisticated, updated system than what we're used to, and thanks to Marianne McPhail, who really came forth and put up the money to allow us to have that possibility now in our judges' education system. And it really is quite something. And some of you, I'm sure, maybe have even scribed and used it. And it is, it's much more modern than the old-fashioned paper scribing and tabulating and all of that. So,
I mean, just from a judging point of view, it makes it really, everything just goes really smoothly. It's nice because they're not where the scribe isn't writing, and it's everybody that scribes. Alan can type fast and so on. In some ways, you can actually give, in some ways, a little, maybe an extra comment or two and so on. That so you're not wearing your scribe's handout with handwriting. So that has a bonus. And obviously, as you all have seen, the scores that are announced even before the horse is out of the arena. But back to the education part, as Bill was saying, like what we've done in the past, and we still do some at the national level. We still have that somewhat, but we're hoping we'll be able to do this more. We'll have a a group of apprentice judges. We have like 6 or 8 in a group, and we'll go to a show, and they practice judge. We sit on the side, as you've probably seen some groups like this at shows you've been to, and so on, and they will all judge. They all have their own scribe, and we judge a certain number of tests at the level that they're required to do. And then, as Bill said, we have to then, those all have to be tabulated, and that takes a long time to go through that, and we go through every single number with them, and the ones, if they're, you know, a point to a point and a half different on some movements, then that's circled in red, and then those are the ones we talk about. But what I just said there, that takes like all day. It really is.
It really does.
And then you take the papers home at night and look at them and all this. But now with the Black Horse system, I said everybody can judge the computer. And as I said, the push of a button, all of a sudden on the screen, there's, it's a big graph and it's all color coded. If everything is green, that means everybody agreed. If there's yellows, oranges, and reds, then you know there's some differences, things to talk about. So if it's green, then we skip over that. We don't have to talk about that. Everybody gave it the 7. Good. Okay, we're okay.
It's a good way to try to bring. I mean, nobody will ever be on the exact same page. I mean, if that's the way judging was supposed to be, we would all sit in one box and have a discussion and then come up with one mark. But it is a way, I think, to bring people more closely onto the same page. And at convention, it was really nice. I can't remember the first meeting that we went to, it was a lot of judges, but then on the second part of that, I heard they had 90 people attend, and nobody's really put on the spot. They don't show the names on the screen about who gave what mark, because then people get intimidated and then don't want to, you know, give their score. But it is a good way to say, okay, well, you know, there's a certain number of people that you're too low, you're too high, and it I think makes people think a little bit more about their methodology when you look at a screen and, you know, 30-some judges give 1 mark and then you've got 5 that go way above that or way below that. It does make one think, but you're not literally put on the spot, at least yet. It's not a program, it's just an educational thing so far.
So this educational tool, how long has it been in effect? I know when Mary Ann made the offer to do
About
it,
a
but
year.
I don't know how long it's
About a
been.
year.
Yeah.
And so when you went to this convention, for example, anybody who wanted to do that could, or they have to be already of a certain level of judging?
No, I think the first section that we went to, I think that was mostly rated judges, but the other part of the program, it was open to anyone that wanted to sign up. And was there a fee for it?
No, there was no fee. What I think what's very interesting about what Mary Ann Phil really requested when she did the money through TDF, which is then through an agreement with USDF. But what's really, I think, quite interesting, and it says a lot about Mary Ann McPhail, is one of the requirements is that there is educational judging educational material for members.
Yeah, that's great.
So the session that Bill is talking about on Friday was free to members. You had to sign up before, but that's all you had to do.
That's great.
Yeah.
But I think in time it could be used, like in the FEI world, you know, we have to do refresher courses. I can't remember if it's every 3 years now or whatever, it doesn't matter. But it could be that in time that we have something like that. And I mean, they're not literally an exam, but you have to do the work and
For national judges, we have to attend a judges forum once every 3 years. I mean, hopefully everybody recognizes and realizes that judges really do want, you know, to continue their education, and you know that we really are trying to do a good job. And sometimes there can be differences and so on, but we're really striving and to make this better in our sport. Yes.
What are some of the latest concerns that have come up in the FEI forums?
You can talk about
I
it.
mean,
That you can talk about.
we could talk about that all night, but I think obviously the major thing right now is how we can improve our image in the sport, because so many right now are just so infuriated with everything that goes on in the horse world, that everything is wrong, and trying to figure out how we can best turn that situation around so that we don't have such negativity in the sport. So I think that's the biggest topic right now, the biggest crisis, is how to improve our sport and our image, not just in the judging world, but in the
Yeah, for sure.
competitors, I mean, all of us.
I mean, I read this morning that Denmark is thinking about banning the full bridle, the double bridle. How are we feeling about that? It's kind of scary, huh?
My own personal feeling is I don't have a problem with the double bridle. It's the hands holding the double bridle that causes the problems. I don't think the double bridle itself is such a problem, but people are trying to do something to hopefully change the image and show, oh, well, you know, now we're nice, we only use snaffle bridles, but in the wrong hands, a snaffle bridle can be just as damaging. So I don't think the double bridle going away is necessarily the right answer, but who am I? I mean,
I always thought it should be optional, you know, because some horses are better in one.
yeah, I agree, it can be optional, but to take it away or
No.
ban it, I think is not the right way to go. But that's a good question.
Well, when I mentioned it at the barn this morning, they were like, "You're full of it." And I'm like, "Nah." That's what I read at 4 a.m.
I
this
saw
morning.
it.
Yeah.
saw it.
He read it and told me.
At 4 a.m.
At 4 a.m.
When you're over a certain age, you're awake.
Like I said, between judges and trainers, all striving to make things better and keep our sport in good light.
I mean, we have the judges' education too, but Bill's very involved in instructor certification, so we're also trying to, through programs, come up with people that want to further their education in the instructor-trainer department, which obviously then also carries over into hopefully then better test riding and all that. If we have instructor trainers bringing people along in the right way, then judges will be happier, hopefully.
And the new part of our instructor trainer program that we have now is these seminars that hopefully maybe you've seen a little bit of something since COVID. During the COVID time, we spent a lot of time kind of reformulating how to roll out the program in a new way, now that we're beyond, hopefully well beyond COVID, but probably in our second year now of having these new seminars. And this is open education for everyone, a little bit like the L education program, the L program for judges that anybody can attend. Even if you don't want to judge, you can go to the L program. And now we have for the certification program, we have these seminars for all three phases, for lunging, riding, and teaching. And it's open it's a 2-day seminar for each one, and it's open to all USDF members to come and audit and discuss and so on too. It's not just silent auditors that can be part of the discussion. And then within that, there may be a group that is interested in going on to look at certification, that they go to further workshops and so on for the hands-on. But again, we're really trying to make a broader base of education at all levels. It really incorporates all, we can have from the lower levels to FEI levels in these workshops too. So that's been really interesting, and I've been part of that several times. We did some in New England, and we're trying to get several new areas of the country to have them. I think Sarah, they did them in Nebraska, Wisconsin, and we're looking at, we worked a little bit this weekend at the convention to do some here in Florida. We'll do a couple here in Wellington and Ocala, I think. So we're trying to get that rolling. But look for those, and again, good general education.
I have a question about the L program. I just completed it
Okay.
in August, and I graduated and got my little diploma that says, congratulations, you graduated,
Great.
but it's not with extinction. Extinction is a 72.
Distinction, not excellence.
Well, that's what I feel like. Why don't I feel really happy about this little diploma when I can really basically not go forward until I repeat the program, which I was told by Sharon Vanderzeel, 80% of the people that go into it don't pass with distinction on the first time. It's very expensive. I was ran all over the country, ending up in Whidbey Island, Seattle, which is the opposite end of the earth.
We judged there in
We
the summer.
judged there.
Yeah, that's a long way.
I know, it's lovely, but the day of this horse show, it rained. The rings were basically lakes.
Yep.
Every single young horse training for a second. Oh, I was praying that they would come to center line and exalt salute, and I'd be, yes, I got a 7 going. And then, oh my God, I didn't educate myself on enough good, bad things to say for that predicament. So
Can be challenging. Can be challenging.
a 70 and 72. So it's very expensive. It was more difficult almost than medical school. Of course, I'm several years older than when I passed that. Why so expensive and why so difficult? I mean, should there be like credits for what you've done in the past or kind of... Because a lot of the people that were there with me, I'm just saying.
Well,
I have to do it all over again, or else I can just do schooling shows forever.
Do you have to do the whole thing all over again?
You don't have to, but they recommend that you do. I mean,
Not
there's
just
some
take
little
the
dirty
exam
things
over
there too. Bring your own scribe. You know why you bring your own scribe? Because they're going to put down what you failed to put down.
Well, a good scribe is
I learned a
necessary,
lot.
because if you have I shouldn't say incompetent, but a scribe that's not so familiar,
And
that can
they
make
did.
you look really bad. Because if they screw up, that really, it comes down on you. no
But in
matter
the
what.
D1 and D2, we had to do the same thing, and then they whoosh it off from you, and so I didn't really get to see what my scribe was doing. I'm becoming a judge. I don't know what a good scribe is. I've never judged before.
That's a legitimate
So doesn't the scribe have to just write down what you say, or they are free to write their own?
But that's,
I don't know.
unfortunately, there are stories, but.
There was a lot of shorthand, so I would get my red circles and marks from all the tests I went through, and it would say more. More what? I could have swore I said.
You probably
Needs
did.
more. And
But that's
she
why
would
having
just
what you
throw out
said.
an arrow and say needs more. I didn't really get that because I never got to see it until I saw the evaluation back. And I thought, God. So at the final, I said, listen, it's really important you say everything I say. Should be, could be, must be.
See, now you're talking like a judge, right?
Yeah.
That's what you have to tell your scribe. I mean, you have, when
She
you have,
wasn't doing it.
when you have a new scribe, if you, we get to a show, we don't necessarily know the scribe. Somebody's in the box with us that we've never met before, very often. If you're lucky, it's somebody that you know and are familiar with. But very often it's somebody, but generally for us, show management has experienced scribes, so they are familiar with the system.
And now I scribe a
and
lot,
judging
and
and so
I
on, they scribe a lot and all that, and that's very helpful. I mean, and it has happened, I've gotten to a show and somebody's been in the box and said, oh, I've never scribed before, and you're kind of like, uh-oh.
Well, then you
But then you have a couple minutes
I'm
and you
talking
educate
about the
them.
education program.
Yeah,
not the
no, I
actual-
know, but I'm just saying, getting the
I think it's
experience.
very
there.
difficult.
Do you guys travel with your own scribes?
I haven't yet, but there's been times I had an invite to like maybe South America. It's like, Roberta, what are you doing?
Because we have some of the most experienced scribes in the world are sitting in this
Sitting right
room.
here.
Cesar prefers Roberta.
But I had it happen in Devon 2 years ago. I did my thing in the CDI, and then Janet came to me and said, Bill, did you go through any of your tests last night? I said, no, and I looked online and went,
Oh,
I
dear.
didn't say that.
Oh, God.
But the scribe thought they could condense what I said,
Oh, God.
and then in the end, it didn't mean what I said.
So that
Yeah,
blew
one
my
little
whole
word
70 to
can change the meaning.
72%. And I've got to start all over again. I just think that's a little, why distinction? You either pass or you don't. Then make it 72 period.
Well, I didn't make the rules for that. George, did you make the rule for that?
I did not make the rules for that, but the two things I would say. One, I think I'm asking these guys, when you have electronic scoring,
Yeah.
do you usually look it over, even though your signature might actually be electronic, you still have to?
The electronic scoring is hard sometimes with the Blacklist because then the scribe has the iPad and then you don't. So to
Yeah.
see it, you have to kind of look over their shoulder
But
and
do
so on.
you
So
look
that's-
at it before you
but
submit it?
You have the chance to look at it, but it is hard to look at everything.
You can't read all the
If I
comments.
don't know the person, I look at it. If I have one of these two, I trust
Yeah,
that what I said is what's there, so I don't have to. But if it's somebody I don't know, then I glance over it from time to time to make sure that it happens.
so
in
the
right way.
second part then is going back to, I think with what we have with the new judging education program, is that we're trying to make access available that you can go online, do the judging, and then you'll get feedback on what you've judged. And it would give you a lot of, two things about this, it would give you a lot of practice. And I know that when I have done forums where I have participated, like with the 5-star, what they do is they give you difficult situations. You don't judge a whole test, you judge very tricky things for that they're trying to get the 5-star. So that really or level course, it really makes you stop and think, how do you handle these situations? And these are some of the things that we want to get on to at least get online, so you can go in and judge, whether somebody halts, rein backs the horse,
Yeah, my
does a
T1
beautiful
was-
halt, steps back, but goes one too many steps, and then canters out instead of trotting out. Or so you have these different things. They have it like in a,
So they can show, like, say 10
T1 was like
we can-
that. It was videos, and they could rerun it then and say,
yeah, but this will give you practice with feedback, so that hopefully you wouldn't have to go. I don't know the rules 100%, but if you don't have, so you don't have to go back through the program of starting over, but you could zero in and then maybe go for a retest. You could zero in where you had trouble was because of whether it's natural rain and those issues, or whether you had particular, a class where there were particularly difficult combinations of problems. It's not a single problem, I think, in general. I'm not a judge. Single problem is easy to deal with, but if you have 2 or 3 problems within a box,
Right.
then it becomes complicated.
But that's like going where it said that we can do the instant replay, so to speak, or whatever, but we can have 10 rainbacks to look at, 10
Yeah.
turns on the haunches to look at, and that's super educational for judges' eyes to be able to do that, or whatever the movement is, and especially tricky things, let's say piaffe passage transitions, where we've all seen a variety of things can happen, and they can be interpreted different ways. Which box do you put the problem in? Is it the transition? Is it the piaffe itself, the passage, and so on? It's an example. And pirouettes and all these other more difficult things even. But even for a 20-meter circle or a shoulder in it for training through second level and so on too, do the same thing.
Yeah.
But that's super helpful for judges to watch. Like I said, 10 in a row. Oh, stop it, and go back and even look at it again. And then you have some of the top judges are helping to give the information back and give feedback in these forums.
With that show that you're talking about where the weather was disaster, so were you too friendly or too tough, or?
I was too friendly.
that?
Mm.
A 4.
And that can
A
happen.
4. Oh my God, the girl is, she's not gonna get out of the 40s. I can't give her a 2, and they said, that was a 2.
The thing is that judges, what we're trained to do is we're there to report on what happens at for that movement, in that moment.
Weather
Reporting
is
on that. You can, and it is, and does it meet the criteria, and following the training scale and our methodology and so on. But if it happens that it's a 2, then it's a 2. You might feel that, oh, well, just give it a 4 or whatever, but even that difference can make a difference at the end of the day.
Well, I felt we're supposed to be at that level ambassadors to the sport. And if I give that poor girl a 2, who's on a training level horse,
Oh,
that's
gosh.
a horrible stiff Arab to begin with.
Yeah.
Jacket. She's never coming back.
But if you give her 6s and 7s and she
Well,
thinks
I'm
it's
not
all good
giving
and then
6s
she
and
thinks she can go to
7s.
first level,
No.
then what does that do for our sport?
No. In fact, in the end, I had to say, I don't think you're
Yes.
I just, this is kind of related to that. What advice or words of wisdom would you give to new riders that are just starting to compete? And then also in terms of para as well, like being a new para rider, a new adult amateur, just taking on this daunting world, like from your perspective, what would you say to them to help them get started in the right direction?
Well, a good coach is gonna be important. If they're just starting out, you're talking about them, starting the showing experience for the first time, then they've gotta have a good coach. Not necessarily somebody that's gonna give them a riding lesson on the day of the show, but just somebody for moral support, because I don't believe in riding lessons on the showgrounds. Coaching is different than riding lessons, and if you need a riding lesson at the show, then you're not ready to show.
Yeah, right.
You need moral support and a little coaching, how things look, but
And I think the most important thing in coaching is that they've helped them to understand that the level that they should be riding at. Because, I mean, often, frankly, we do see people that probably shouldn't be riding at the level that they're, like what you just said about one. So I think that's a really important part of not just that they're supportive, but to give them good direction to show, the appropriate level that they can handle. And not be overfaced.
That don't read the criteria or the directives. They don't even know what it says in the directives. How can you do that movement if you haven't read the directives or the criteria?
And I mean, I have to say sometimes,
Which is,
rider and horse not prepared today to meet the demands of this test. Maybe another day, it's totally different. I don't want to assume that it's disaster all the time. But sometimes it appears, okay, this isn't just a bad day, this is how it is all the time, but sometimes not. So I always say, just not prepared today to meet the demands of this test. In Europe, they can ring the bell and send that rider out. We can't do that here. Otherwise, people would really be.
but I mean, I was kind of ignorant. That's why Marianne McPhail's program, allowing it for everybody to see. Yeah, there's some movements I did where I never read the directives before either. But the judging program, the L program, really taught me to see it from a different perspective
Right.
than a trainer, rider,
Yeah.
or competitor,
Yeah.
which is, I think, the full circle.
But the student should be, the coach especially should be well versed in that and be able to get the rider to take some responsibility for reading those directives also.
Judge
reading,
coaches are good.
and reading the rule book also. The USAF rule book has a wealth of information to give you that can really include anybody at any level. It tells exactly the criteria for every single movement from training level through Grand Prix, not to mention all the other rules and all the things you have to adhere to at the show, from dress and clothing and saddlery, etc.
I don't know if that answered your question or not, but I think
That's helpful.
good moral support. But needing a riding lesson at the show, then you're not ready.
That's very good advice, thank you.
And I mean, there are schooling shows if they're still a little bit trying a new level, or if it's something brand new. I mean, in the schooling show, even I know Adam has those classes where you can even have the C coach and talk to the rider through. And I think that's that level for people doing that. And why not to be able to do that? if they're that need that extra hand holding to get started, why not have it be positive?
Absolutely.
Yes.
So when they were talking about improving the image of the sport, were there any discussions ever about modern dressage versus classical dressage? Because I think that's where we're running into problems.
Personally, I've grown to hate the word classical,
Okay.
because what does that really mean? I think horses trained in a harmonious way, then that's classical. The technique might be a little bit different from person to person, and I mean, I grew up with classical drilled into me, so it's not like I'm not supportive of this so-called classical dressage, but what does it really mean? And I think the term is just so thrown around these days. And when I look now, because now I'm old, I'm not so young anymore, but when I look at some of like the old classical prints, I'm not so sure that all of that was as harmonious as people think it is.
Yeah.
If you look at the
I
bits and the
think,
spurs.
I'm thinking back, the backs of the horses moving versus their backs being hollow and just their legs moving.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, as judges, that's what we have to then find out and then score accordingly. But I think that's, when we think about the judging program and the instructor certification, I think that should bring it all
Yeah.
more into balance, but.
And both
no.
of those programs are based on our training pyramid, right?
Right.
And that goes along to have the kind of horse moving that you're trying to describe, right? They use their back and not just their legs.
We want to see harmonious riding, but I don't want to, I don't like labels these days, because I know some people that really came from a whole different school, but yet their work is harmonious and the horses look happy. So to me, maybe that's classical, but then I know others that are so staunch, well, I was raised in the classical school, and it's like, well, I'm not so sure I really appreciate what you're doing, so, but yes, if we follow the training scale, then the horse should go through the
Yes.
back and be swinging and
Yes.
harmonious, and not this sort of running around with legs flying every which direction, which sadly we have seen, and I'm not proud of it, but I think some of it has slipped through the cracks, and riders got rewarded with high scores
Yes.
that maybe shouldn't have at the time, but it's really, but I think that's the whole purpose of now trying to improve our judges' education, to bring everybody closer
Yes.
to being on the same page, that these things don't happen.
Yes,
But we'll
I guess that's
for
what I
sure.
was asking, because when you see those extended trots where the legs are up here, but the hind legs don't come through, and they get an 8 or a 9, and then some other people have properly coming through horses, but their legs aren't up there, and they get a 5 or a 6. Then you start training for the 8, and you start, running the problem.
Yeah, because people try to copy, well, this one gets
Yeah.
8 for that, so now I've got to
Yeah,
run, I've got to
exactly.
run faster to,
Yeah, Yeah.
to get a higher mark. And I think that's coming full circle now, that
That would
we're
be
getting
great.
hold of
because if
that.
the judges didn't reward that, which is really incorrect, then people wouldn't train that.
But I think also, there's much more to a dressage test than extended
Oh.
trot. And I
Of
tell
course.
people all the time when I'm teaching, it's like, okay, I don't mean to hurt your feelings, but your horse probably is never going to have a really good extended trot. When I say good, like an 8, 9, or a 10 extended trot, maybe it'll have a decent medium, but it's never going to have extension. So why bother trying? There's so many other things that you can shine at and still get a very nice overall mark, instead of saying, well, okay, I keep getting 5 on my extended trot, so every day I'm going to do 50 extended trots. Basically, you're wearing your horse's
Yeah,
joints down for no reason. Some horses are just never going to have it.
Every test, pretty much from training level through Grand Prix, every test, about 50% of the score is based on transitions. I mean, how much in all our training and riding every day do we hear our coach or we say transitions, 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 right? So in the test riding, same thing, about 50% of your score is on transitions. So there's in the detail, a lot more comes from that than I said, from just the extended trot or just the piaffe or just the half pass or whatever. It's all about the adjustability and balance and acceptance of the 8s and others. It's a lot bigger part of the score.
Did that answer?
Yes, totally, thank you.
Well, another point about that is how far back does classical go? We're talking about 30 years ago when Monkey Von Gronson was classical.
No.
That's why I don't like the word anymore, because it's,
Or do you go back 100 years? Horses
yeah,
were
once upon a
put
time,
in
there was no
classes.
competitive dressage, and now we have the old school that didn't compete, and then you have modern dressage, which is competition, so.
And always changing for what pleases the judge.
Right.
But I think
Those damn judges.
But I do think the majority of my colleagues would agree that we want to see harmonious riding.
Yes.
And we want to see happy horses, and that doesn't mean we want to see strung out horses that, okay, I don't want to put them on the bit because that's not so, the computer geeks say that's cruel when we make horses go on the bit. That's not what I'm talking about. But we don't want to see horses jammed together and flying around
Yes,
with
yeah.
flailing front legs for extended trot. I think it's coming full circle, and it's coming, I think, back to where we should be.
Yes, the trainings.
Yeah. The training scale, and if we're gonna talk about, taking double bridles away, and then we'll take away, something else, and I know for a couple of years, we had the possibility of, now we can ride posting trot through most of our levels, and I thought, well, then why don't we just do away with the training scale entirely, because what does it matter if we're gonna throw everything off the table, then just, let's not talk about the training scale anymore, but that's not, I think it's coming under control, slowly, but slowly under control again.
Guess if them start rising through every level, then nobody bothers to develop a seat, right? It's kind of the point of getting the second level and have to have a seat.
A seniors division? Like, and you can carry 2 whips, you can, if you need, right? And you can ride, but it's in its own division, and you're only judged against. So, but USDF hasn't done that at all.
Geriatric division.
And I know the part of it was because, the judges got sick of seeing people that can't sit so well and banging on the horse's back, but I'm sorry, somehow, then as trainers, instructors, whatever, then we have to teach people to sit better and not just say, well, we give up and let everybody go posting trot. And not that I want to in any way not be supportive of the sport, and we need people to spend money and be in our sport, but if you really can't sit, then maybe you're just not ready for the level that you're riding at, and sorry, then maybe you have to just stay at a lower level until you
Or
can
you're
sit.
too old.
And from, the thing is with the different more divisions, think about all the divisions we have already, it gets to be a little bit of a show management issue as well. It's partly that, but it's also a little bit show management and, and from USDF point of view, more awards and so on and programs to run, and there's already so many different things that they have. That's a little part of it as well.
Keep them on the lunge line for 7 years like they do at the Spanish.
Classical.
But that would be for the younger ones just starting out.
When you're 80.
I do this.
Any other questions, any other avenues we can go on?
Did I hear something about somewhere where one of the countries are allowing you not to even use the noseband in dressage? Did I read that somewhere?
I don't
Sweden?
think I've seen that.
I think it's
No noseband?
Sweden? Yeah.
I think somebody's doing that.
In what country you can't even have bandages?
Netherlands.
Netherlands, you can't have bandages.
On the martial grounds, yeah.
And isn't there like a high pole or something on the crown piece?
It has to be all in one piece.
Oh,
That's US.
It can't have separate sides. It's got to be one continuous
One
piece.
what was the reasoning for that? You have any idea?
Pull pressure.
Alan,
But I think
I'm
you're
not
right.
joking, but what,
I think there's also a rule on how to add it.
Right.
I'm not joking, but what happens when you judges start giving 99 and 100? What do we do then?
we haven't seen that yet.
We changed the horse's name to Nadia.
We haven't seen it. And some people say, well, now the scores are coming down, and maybe there is some truth to that, but I think the scale is coming back to a little more of a realistic
And that was my next
situation.
question. Back in the day, my day, the scores, even if you were pretty good, I'm not talking about me, other people, they were fairly higher, certainly not where they are today in the top level riders, but it seems to me, and it's a question, it keeps growing up, and maybe not such a universal betterment or better training, meaning.
I think way back when you're talking about, I mean, some of our, top
Way
riders
back.
were with, gold medal with
Yeah,
low 60s.
yeah,
And now we have 90.
yeah.
But I think the methodology in judging, I think, has evolved over the years, and then we
I
started
agree.
to be braver to use the whole scale
Right,
when people just would barely get away from sixes and give sevens.
right, all right.
And so there you were with gold medals with low 60s. So then, the methodology broadened a bit and, okay, we've got a whole scale, so why not utilize it? But then I think when it came to, what really is an 8, 9, or a 10, and riders are getting 8, 9s, and 10s, but then now it's like, okay, but can it be an 8 or a 9 when the mouth is open?
That's my question.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
And the answer is no. We're coming back to a little bit more detail
Good.
in our marking, so that we're not seeing so easily the really high numbers when we've got other details missing. The open mouths, the 10 specs.
And then
Okay,
that-
Piaf's on the spot,
Yeah.
but when it's got a wide open mouth, then that can't be a high mark.
So is that something that was discussed like at the convention, or it's become kind of part of
Maybe in
the?
a roundabout way, I don't know if it was anything specific, but in a
Talked about it a
roundabout
little bit
way.
from the Olympics and so on.
Awesome.
And then, but also part of it, I mean, when you have many judges around the arena, you're only seeing it, the close-up right there. And when it's on the other side of the arena, then those judges aren't seeing that so clearly, like the one when it's right in front of them. So there's some differences that can happen there.
You can't give marks on assumption. You have to, if you see it, then say it, but if you don't see it, then give it what it deserves.
If you're sitting at H, like when they have the 3 judges on the short side, and you're sitting on one of the quarter lines of the corner there, and you see the horse going, all you see is on the diagonal, the horse going away from you or down the long side, really all you can see is straight. You can see the tail and the straightness, and that's about all you can judge. You can't guess anything about it being on the bit or so
I
on.
mean, even as an amateur, I mean, I watch a lot of lessons and I watch a lot of things, and I was watching a lesson today, and the person was riding changes on the diagonal. They were gorgeous. And the trainer said, let's try them on the quarter line. And there was a big difference in what they looked like, and so for me, from a visual, on the quarter line was literally right in front of me. on a
You
straight
saw
line.
a different perspective.
I saw a different
Yeah,
perspective.
for sure.
Right, so,
If I sit at M in the Grand Prix, and the horse goes bullet straight and the one-time changes, then I give an 8, but the one sitting over on the B side said it was late in front when change. Well,
you can see.
I can't see it. So then we get hit over the head for showing we have differences in opinions, but if you judge on what you see, which I think is a fair way of judging, you are going to miss things. But then at the big championships, you have the JSP who are looking from above, and they can change things like that to bring the mark closer together. They can't change anything subjective, but when it's a missed thing like that, like a change, then the JSP judges can change it so it's a little closer in balance.
What do you think of the new tool for the measuring the nosebands that FEI's come up with?
Well, I haven't seen it in person.
Okay.
I've only seen pictures, but I know enough sensitive horses that are really funny about anyone touching their face that I can't
Yeah.
wait to see how that's going to go over on some of those horses. And then does it make a major crisis
Yeah.
when that person can't get near the horse to measure the noseband?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I think it possibly could be in some ways a positive thing, that everybody has to be on the same playing field. You can't crank your noseband and all of that, but there are horses that just won't tolerate
Yeah,
all
right.
of that. So I don't know
What
then
is
what
the
the
thing with
answer
the
is.
noseband? Does it have to be a certain, is it the tension or is it the physical?
Tension.
Tension.
Attention.
How do you measure
So there's this little device that has to be able to fit, instead of somebody sticking their fingers in to see.
Everybody's
there's
finger
a-
is a different size.
Right.
Hillary Clayton did a little presentation at last year's convention about that. And she said, like, the finger thing, it's like, well, she said, well, is it little lady fingers or is it big fat man fingers? You know what I mean? So it was something to be a little more scientific.
Somebody said to use a toothbrush. It's like the handle of a toothbrush,
Oh.
sort of.
The thing, it's a widget, so
Yeah.
it's very sharp,
A little thinner.
Yeah.
it's very, very thin. The FEI did about 800 horses last year and had very few issues, actually.
Oh, good.
But if you want
And
to
it will be
practice, you can-
available cheaply to everybody so they can try it on their horse prior to competition.
A cane in Canada. We actually, 2 years ago, I think, they did a pilot project at national shows with the tool.
Yeah.
And actually, I think they did a little seminar afterwards, and I think it went fairly well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, we're talking national and a lot of low levels, and so it became a very educational
Yeah.
for the riders.
And I think what they'll do is they'll do it as you come into the warm-up, not after the test.
Oh, yeah.
And right now, the plan is if it's too tight, you have to loosen it before you warm up. And if yours is too tight, you have to have it retested before you go in, just so you don't go and hide and
And then correct it
quickly tighten
again,
it.
yes.
I mean.
Yeah, but if you do it before, then the horses have a chance to calm down. And they're usually quieter actually coming into the warm-up than coming out of in the FAI, coming out of the
Yeah.
stadium where there's a lot of
Itchy
applause.
face and-
Yeah, I didn't know, I missed that
Yeah.
detail, that it was gonna be before the warm-up. So yeah, horses would be more calm then, but yeah.
I mean, that makes total sense to do it that way.
I have an idea. This might be totally stupid, but as you guys were talking about technology and stuff, and that you can't see certain things from certain angles, I mean, obviously, the way we judge developed because 50, 100 years ago, we didn't have phones, we didn't have cameras, we didn't have instant replay, right?
Right.
Why don't they just film everything from every angle, and then every judge can see it from every angle after the ride, and then you all give the scores afterwards?
Can you
No,
imagine
but
how
why?
long,
That would be
how long the competition would go?
How much would that cost and how long would it
Yeah,
take?
shows are expensive now.
It just seems like there has to be a way to integrate the technology into it.
There's a
Well,
lot-
as you said, that,
Drum.
if you missed it, when you talked about the JSP at the WEGs and Olympics, so there are, yeah, they can look at
Yeah, yeah.
videos and so on, and they can read.
And see, you have a screen in front of you that shows you the horse from the other angle.
That's why we have the judge stand over there.
Take your eyes off the horse and be on the screen.
On the top.
There's something we talked about in convention too, because some of it we did judge, the practice ones we did in this program were on videos, but when you judge video versus live horse, it is different being, that it's not three-dimensional. We can have a certain look and all that, but it is a whole different feeling, judging it on a flat screen versus seeing it live. No matter what angle you're at, for sure.
And the sound. Sometimes
No,
that's
the live,
important.
no, you're absolutely right. No, just
Pounding
being
on the
there,
ground.
you hear the
Very
breathing,
soft.
you hear the sound, the hoof beats, and so on.
Grinding or not grinding.
Yeah,
things.
grinding.
So, and all those are factors that go into every score, for sure. So, no, absolutely right.
I was just going to add, there is a lot of discussion in the FEI about AI and judging and how to use AI. So there are several concepts that are being developed. One is certainly a GPS type thing to judge the quality of the movements around circles, even zigzags.
Wow. Yeah.
But the other is one that puts points on the horses, and then it determines how much the hocks flex, how much the back changes.
There you go.
Whether the neck changes in length.
In another 10 or 20 years, and maybe a whole nother discussion here, for sure. Maybe
It's a ways out, but there's a lot of
We have AI, right?
The horses will be cloned and we have.
everybody can ride the perfect Grand Prix then. So-
How is the changing the colors being accepted, like nationally, everybody likes them, but overall, how's it changes colors of
I have,
jackets and boots?
when we first came out with the rules where pretty much any color was allowed, in certain places in the country, I had to, as Edgar Hotz would say, Bill, just hold on to the arms of your chair, it'll be over in 6 minutes. I saw some pretty bizarre things. Now, I think it's calming
It
down.
does seem like it's more here now, like.
Every once in a while, you see something that's a little bit, for me, outrageous, but I'm sort of old school, classical. And, of course, where's Michelle? I have to be careful because the vendors
Oh,
are
yeah,
selling.
oh, that's right.
The vendors are selling
We
all
are.
this stuff. So of course, anybody that comes in and wants to buy all this bizarre breeches, coat, I mean, it goes on. And I won't mention who it is, but on the West Coast, there's somebody that every day has a different outfit, from complete white outfit, white hat,
White
tails,
everything.
lace-up boots, to gold stirrups, gold hat, gold tails, and every
Like
day
shiny
it's
gold
different.
boots
Yeah.
that like.
But whoever's selling all that stuff is very happy, so I can't complain. In the FEI world, that's not happening.
Can they ride it?
Can they ride with it? Yes.
No, I meant,
Okay.
can they ride it? I mean, I figure if you got that much
Well,
land, you better be able
You
to
better
ride
be
it.
good, you better be good, right?
You better be doggone good.
We
yeah.
won't comment.
Okay. I mean, you're gonna
Hopefully they
flash,
do.
you might as well, you better be able to ride it.
Yeah, think about, well, even just the bling on the helmet, if you don't have a steady
Yeah.
head, I mean, that draws attention.
Yeah.
So why would you want to do that if you're not steady?
I don't see
right?
it so much in the FEI world, and I did judge in several countries this spring, and I didn't see it there. It's pretty
The nationals, yeah.
normal stuff.
Maybe they're just having fun, what the heck, you know, trying to make a little fun and.
Which I do want people to enjoy, but
Yeah.
I'm still like pain in the neck. So maybe don't do it. I see you looking. We were talking about colors.
So Michelle, what's the hot color now? What's happening? What are people buying?
Well, in breeches, it's always black, brown, navy, gray.
Good. But I see some turquoise
Yeah,
and
this
things
was
going on
nice.
there.
This was good, kind of like a sea minty color, was good.
But people aren't after you for like super bright colors a whole lot.
No.
So, because we were just talking about the fact, like it seemed
My
like it was for a little
favorite
bit.
time was when we first started, and it was the plaids. Remember the plaids?
Yeah, boy.
Oh my God, and the leather seats,
Yes.
they were beautiful.
Yeah, they were.
So now it's black, brown, navy, gray.
But if you're schooling, why not have fun?
Anything tasteful I can live with, when it's just so over the top.
If you're home.
Because for me, it's about the horse and correctness and the training and the riding. It's not, to me, a fashion show. Sorry.
This is your last
I guess we ain't coming back.
But you can have fun, though, you can have fun at home, you just don't take it to a show. I mean, you show, be traditional, but at home, you
At
can have all the
homeschooling,
fun.
I mean,
Maybe the people buy it, you know, they like to have fun.
when I
at
ride, I
home.
think about what colors, I try to make it match and all that, but I don't go.
And so maybe, you know, the pad and the wraps and, you know, I see this pink horse go by,
Right. We have
But
a
they
big
have
pad
fun.
and wraps and the whole.
but they were fun. At home. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Claire Darnell's pink saddle.
Oh, yeah. Claire, yeah, she's got the pink.
She has a pink
she's got-
shad belly
Yeah.
too. Oh, jeez.
Oh, well.
And the boots too, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Pink boots?
She's got the whole Barbie thing, I think.
Oh, my God.
Because she can ride.
Well, you can ride it then.
Any other questions before we do the raffle? I can see the bag.
Where are you from in New England? Where's your?
We live in Rhode Island, but it's like right on the Mass border, kind of between Providence and Boston. Bill's family is actually from Rhode Island. And they're sort of,
They never left.
and my parents actually still, I lived in Vermont for a long time, my parents still live. Where are you?
No.
Where in Nassau? Okay.
No, I don't think they work for Mars.
Right, if there's no more questions, I think Michelle's got a little raffle, if everybody, hopefully everybody put their little names in the gold hat. The gold top hat. Pick one.